A 42-year-old woman walks into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom for a simple speeding ticket, but doesn't let him finish a single sentence. Her constant interruptions and dismissive attitude push America's most patient judge to the breaking point, leading to a confrontation that will leave you speechless. This is Karen Whitfield's story, and it reveals what happens when a sense of entitlement collides with unwavering fairness, and why Judge Frank Caprio's response was a masterclass in managing destructive behavior. Where are you watching today? Chicago, London, Miami. Share your location in the comments, because this lesson about courtroom respect and personal responsibility applies no matter where you live. If you've ever encountered someone who simply won't stop interrupting others, hit the like button now and share your most frustrating interruption story in the comments. You're about to witness why Judge Caprio's constant interruptions were the worst decision Karen ever made, and ironically, the wake-up call she desperately needed. This story will make you appreciate the power of listening and the consequences of thinking your voice is more important than everyone else's. Read to the end, because Judge Caprio's final words to Karen will give you goosebumps and show you just how masterfully. Tuesday, 10:15 a.m. Providence Municipal Court. Judge Frank Caprio starts his day by reviewing the usual docket: parking violations, minor traffic violations, the usual municipal matters that occupy his court. One case catches his attention. Karen Whitfield, 42, received a speeding ticket, 65 miles per hour in a 35 miles per hour zone on school district property. The officer's notes mention confrontational behavior and a refusal to politely accept a ticket. Judge Caprio, now 77, has developed an almost zen-like patience over decades of court experience. He has heard thousands of traffic cases, dealt with a wide variety of people, and perfected the art of maintaining order while showing compassion. Today, that patience will be tested like never before. In the courtroom, about 20 people await their cases. Mrs. Rodriguez sits quietly with paperwork for a parking ticket. 3 students whisper nervously about their tickets for making noise at a party. Officer Thompson, who issued Karen a speeding ticket, sits in the back row, already looking worried. Court stenographer Janet Mills, with 30 years of experience, adjusts equipment and reviews the docket, saying this might be interesting. At 10:20 a.m., the bailiff calls Karen's case. A woman in an expensive business suit, carrying a designer handbag, perfectly coiffed blonde hair, and an expression that suggests she has something far more important to do, walks through the courtroom doors. Karen Whitfield owns a successful real estate agency on Providence's upscale east side. She's built her career on aggressive negotiating tactics, outbidding both clients and competitors, and never taking no for an answer. She approaches problems like a bulldozer, crushing resistance with sheer verbal force. But Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom is no place for a real estate transaction, and the judiciary doesn't negotiate. "Good morning, Ms. Whitfield." Judge Caprio begins, his voice carrying the calm dignity of his office. "You are here regarding a speeding ticket issued on Elmwood Avenue. Before we do, Your Honor, I need to explain something." Karen interrupts him before he can finish his introduction. This speed limit sign is completely obscured by tree branches. The city has failed to provide adequate visibility. Judge Caprio's expression changes almost imperceptibly. Those who know him notice a slight tension in his eyes, the first sign that his legendary patience is being tested. "Ms. Whitfield, I understand your concerns, but please." "Your Honor, I pay significant property taxes to this city, over $18,000 a year, and I believe that entitles me to expect proper maintenance of traffic signs that do not create hazardous conditions for law-abiding citizens who, ma'am, are simply trying to conduct business efficiently in a city that should support local businesses, not create bureaucratic obstacles through a poorly designed traffic enforcement system." The court stenographer stops typing and looks up. Officer Thompson shakes his head. Mrs. Rodriguez clutches her purse tighter, embarrassed by the display. The college students exchange wide-eyed glances. Judge Caprio sets down his paperwork with deliberate precision, a gesture that veteran court watchers know means he's reaching the end of his patience. "Miss Whitfield, I'm going to need you to, Your Honor. I've been researching municipal traffic law, and I believe there are constitutional questions about due process." When stopped, The single word fills the courtroom like thunder. Karen actually steps back, genuinely shocked that someone has interrupted her. Judge Frank Caprio stands slowly, his 77-year-old frame carrying the full weight of judicial authority. The entire courtroom falls silent. Even the whispers stop completely. Miss Whitfield, you have been in my courtroom for exactly 4 minutes, and in that time you have interrupted me 7 times. This behavior is unacceptable. Karen's eyes flash with indignation. Your Honor, I was simply trying to explain the circumstances surrounding 8 times. Judge Caprio says firmly. You just did it again. Karen opens her mouth to respond, but Judge Caprio's raised hand and steely expression finally penetrate her consciousness. In my courtroom, there is an order of proceedings. I speak, you listen. I ask questions, you answer them. I do not ask for lengthy dissertations on traffic engineering, property tax rates, or your opinions about municipal governance. Karen's face flushes red. 20 years of running meetings, dominating negotiations, and overwhelming opposition with rapid fire talking have left her completely unprepared for someone who cannot be talked over or worn down. Your Honor, I have a right to defend myself against charges that are clearly 9 times. Judge Caprio states, Miss Whitfield, you seem incapable of understanding that this is not a business meeting where the loudest voice wins. This is a court of law where respect for process and authority determines how we proceed. Karen's business instincts kick in. In real estate negotiations, persistence and refusal to back down usually eventually wear down opposition. She decides to apply the same strategy to Judge Caprio. Your Honor, with all due respect, I think you're being unnecessarily rigid about procedural formalities, when the real issue here is municipal negligence in traffic sign maintenance that creates liability exposure for the city. And Judge Caprio's voice drops to a level that somehow commands more attention than any shout. Miss Whitfield, you have now interrupted me 9 times. Your behavior is showing contempt for this court, disrespect for the judicial process, and complete disregard for basic courtroom decorum. But Your Honor, 10 times the courtroom is dead silent. Officer Thompson looks genuinely concerned. The stenographer is typing frantically to keep up with the unprecedented exchange. Karen's face is now bright red, a combination of embarrassment and anger. Your Honor, I'm simply trying to present a defense against what I believe to be an unjust citation based on municipal failures. That Judge Caprio removes his glasses, cleans them slowly, and fixes Karen with a stare that has intimidated defendants for over 4 decades. Miss Whitfield, let me explain something to you about respect and authority. In your business, you may be accustomed to talking over people, dominating conversations, and wearing down opposition through verbal persistence. That behavior ends at the door of my courtroom. Karen finally falls silent, though her expression suggests she's building up for another verbal assault rather than genuinely listening. You came into my courtroom today, believing that your normal tactics would work here. You thought you could overwhelm me with rapid-fire explanations, challenge my authority through sheer persistence, and essentially bully your way to the outcome you wanted. Judge Caprio walks around from behind his bench, something he rarely does, positioning himself where Karen cannot avoid direct eye contact. But here's what you fail to understand, Miss Whitfield. This courtroom operates on respect. Respect for the law, respect for the process, and Judge Frank Caprio returns to his bench, but his presence seems to fill the entire courtroom. Karen stands before him, for perhaps the first time in years, truly speechless. Miss Whitfield, your original citation was for speeding in a school zone. The fine was $185 plus court costs of $50. A simple matter that should have taken 3 minutes to resolve. Karen's hands fidget with her designer handbag, her usual verbal armor temporarily stripped away. Instead, your behavior this morning has created a much more serious situation. Your repeated interruptions, your argumentative demeanor, and your fundamental disrespect for this court's procedures constitute contempt of court. The words hit Karen like cold water. In her business world, aggressive behavior is rewarded. Talking over people is standard practice. Refusing to back down is considered strength. But this isn't a real estate closing. Your Honor, I certainly didn't intend any disrespect. I was simply 11 times. Judge Caprio states, Karen's mouth snapped shut. Miss Whitfield, criminal contempt of court is punishable by up to 6 months in jail and fines up to $1,000. Your behavior this morning has elevated a simple traffic violation into a potential criminal matter. For the first time, Karen looks genuinely frightened. Her world of aggressive negotiation and verbal domination has no precedent for consequences that cannot be talked away. Furthermore, Judge Caprio continues, your complete inability to show basic respect in a courtroom raises questions about your character that could affect your real estate license. The Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation takes professional conduct seriously. Karen's face goes pale. Her real estate license represents 15 years of building a business, establishing a client base, and creating the financial success that has defined her identity. Your Honor, surely you can't. Judge Caprio's look stops her mid-sentence. Finally, she's learning to read the room. Miss Whitfield, I want you to understand something. Your behavior this morning isn't just about disrespecting me personally. You've shown contempt for a system of justice that depends on mutual respect and orderly procedure. He gestures toward the gallery, where other defendants have been watching, letting the weight of his words settle. In your business dealings, Miss Whitfield, you may have learned that the loudest voice gets heard first. That interrupting and dominating conversation leads to success. But there are places in our society where those tactics don't just fail. They create serious consequences. Karen nods slightly, the first sign that she might actually be listening instead of preparing her next verbal assault. This courtroom is one of those places. Here, respect is not negotiable, order is not optional, and authority is not subject to your approval or your aggressive negotiations. Judge Frank Caprio sits back in his chair, his expression shifting from stern authority to something approaching paternal concern. The courtroom remains completely silent, everyone understanding they're witnessing something significant. Miss Whitfield, I'm going to do something I rarely do. I'm going to give you a choice about how we proceed. Karen looks up with cautious hope, but Judge Caprio's expression makes clear this isn't the negotiation she's hoping for. Choice 1. I find you in criminal contempt of court. You pay maximum fines, face possible jail time, and deal with the professional consequences to your real estate license. Your behavior today has certainly justified that outcome. Karen's face goes pale again. Choice 2. You demonstrate that you're capable of learning from this experience, but that choice comes with conditions that are not negotiable. Judge Caprio leans forward, his voice carrying both authority and unexpected compassion. If you choose the second option, you will spend the next hour in this courtroom observing how other cases are handled. You will watch how respectful defendants interact with this court. You will see how order and mutual respect create an environment where justice can actually function. Karen starts to speak but catches herself and simply nods. During that hour, you will not speak unless directly asked a question. You will observe how effective communication happens when people listen more than they talk, when they respect process more than they push their agenda. The conditions continue. After observing other cases, you will return to address your original speeding citation. At that time, you will demonstrate that you understand how proper courtroom behavior works. Judge Caprio stands again, his presence commanding complete attention. But here's what I really want you to understand, Miss Whitfield. Your behavior today isn't just about courtroom etiquette. It's about fundamental respect for other people and the processes that hold our society together. He walks closer to Karen, speaking directly to her rather than addressing the courtroom generally. In your business career, you've been successful by overwhelming opposition, by talking louder and faster than everyone else, by never backing down. Those tactics may work in real estate negotiations, but they fail catastrophically in relationships, in community involvement, and in any situation that requires gestures toward Mrs. Rodriguez, still waiting patiently for her case. Mrs. Rodriguez hasn't interrupted anyone today. She hasn't demanded special treatment based on her tax payments or her business success. She's shown the same respect for this process that she would want shown to her. So here's your choice, Miss Whitfield. You can continue to believe that aggressive behavior and verbal domination represent strength and effectiveness. In that case, I'll treat you as someone who chooses conflict over cooperation, and you'll face the full consequences of contempt of court. Karen shakes her head slightly. The first sign of genuine humility she's shown. Or you can accept that there are places in our society where listening matters more than talking, where respect matters more than aggression, and where understanding others' perspectives creates better outcomes than drowning them out with your own voice. Judge Caprio returns to his bench. What's your choice, Miss Whitfield? Karen takes a deep breath, and when she speaks her voice is quiet and respectful for the first time. Your Honor, I choose to learn. I want to observe how this court nods approvingly. Ms. Whitfield, please take a seat in the back row. For the next hour, you will observe without comment how respectful interaction with this court actually functions. Karen walks to the back of the courtroom, her designer heels clicking softly on the floor. For perhaps the first time in years, she's about to listen more than she speaks. Mrs. Rodriguez, please approach the bench. The elderly woman stands nervously, clutching her parking ticket. Karen watches as Mrs. Rodriguez walks respectfully to the front of the courtroom. Good morning, Your Honor. Mrs. Rodriguez says in accented English. I am here about parking ticket. Judge Caprio's entire demeanor changes. Warm, patient, genuinely interested in her situation. Tell me what happened, Mrs. Rodriguez. Your Honor, I park in front of my daughter's house to help with new baby. I stay too long in 2-hour parking. I know I break rule, but baby was crying and daughter needed help. Karen watches, fascinated despite herself, as Judge Caprio listens completely before responding. Mrs. Rodriguez, how much was the fine? $75, Your Honor. It's hard for me because I am on fixed income, but I know I did wrong. Judge Caprio considers for a moment. Mrs. Rodriguez, you took responsibility for your mistake. You showed respect for this court, and you explained your circumstances clearly and honestly. He pauses, looking at the citation. Fine reduced to $25, payable within 60 days, and congratulations on becoming a grandmother. Mrs. Rodriguez's face lights up with gratitude. Thank you, Your Honor. You are very kind. As Mrs. Rodriguez walks past Karen on her way out, she smiles warmly. Karen realizes she just witnessed something she's never seen in her aggressive business world. Respect a college student a better clearly nervous, but respectful. Your Honor, we're here about the noise complaint at our apartment. The first student says, Tell me what happened. Judge Caprio says, giving them his full attention. We had a party that got too loud. Our neighbor called the police, and we were cited for disturbing the peace. We're really sorry about it. Karen watches as Judge Caprio asks follow-up questions, listens to their explanations about midterm stress and poor judgment, and ultimately assigns them community service at a local senior center. You'll spend 20 hours helping elderly residents with technology and daily activities. You'll learn that being good neighbors means considering how your actions affect others. The students accept gratefully, thanking Judge Caprio for giving them a constructive way to make amends. An hour later, Judge Frank Caprio calls Karen back to address her original speeding citation. She approaches the bench, but her entire demeanor has changed. Gone is the